So many different championships at stake at the season finale. The Endurance Championship, Drivers' Championships, Manufacturers' Championships. Congratulations to all the 2025 champions and our winners here at the 28th running of Motul Petit Le Mans.
Well, hello again, everyone. I'm Matt Yocum. Welcome to another edition of the IMSA Endurance Hour podcast, President's Edition, with IMSA President John Doonan stopping by. Like you did in the spring, you unveiled some great things with the schedule for 2026. And I always go back to Ferris Bueller, and I love his quote. You know, he was a car guy. He liked Ferraris.
He did.
He was a little hard on him, he and his buddies. But I loved his line that life moves pretty fast. And if you don't stop and look around for a little while, you're going to miss it. And that's why I love the State of the Sport address every year at Petite, because it gives everyone a chance to exhale and look at what transpired leading up to the season finale, but also what we have on the horizon, which is always fantastic. So first, welcome back to our studio.
The season's in the books.
I'm telling you, excitement every stop, but also excitement for the future. Where do you want to begin?
Well, first of all, it's great to be back, and great job to you and the entire team here at the NASCAR Broadcast Center and the production facility here in Concord. The place is epic, and we're thrilled that we've been able to kick off the show this year to put more content in front of our fans, which, as you know, is a growing fan base. But you know, what a Motul Petit Le Mans we had! What a amazing State of the Sport! And I was laughing with Ed Bennett and my teammates the other day. You know, back I'd call it, I don't know, 15 years ago, the schedule got announced at Motul Petit Le Mans. The State of the Sport took place, and that was, you know, same timing. And so to be able to your point, announce the schedule in March, you know, for the next season, really love that cadence. And then the same goes for the State of the Sport, an opportunity at the end of the year, celebrate what we've done, but not rest on our laurels. And as you know, we made some really incredible announcements last week, and I'm thrilled that we can talk more about them today.
Well, I know when we were kids, we would go to the amusement park, whether it's Cedar Point up in Sandusky or wherever around the country. They always had the book of tickets, and the e-ticket was for the thrill rides. And I look back to just the impact within the sport, social content-wise. 500 million views of video that was going into Petit Le Mans. I can't imagine what, you know, it's going to be between now and we get ready to go to Rolex, but that's just another example. You throw in F1, the movie, there's IMSA everywhere, and people are just eating it up.
You know what makes me smile is, like, I know you can relate to this. Like, when I'd get home from school, I'd run to the mailbox and try to get the latest issue of Road and Track or SCCA Sports Car Magazine or the IMSA Aero, which was the newsletter, or On Track, all these publications before my dad got them, right? So I'd just take them in my room and read them cover to cover. And the results in there, as you know, in the case of Road and Track in, you know, 70s and 80s, the final results were like a week or two, or sometimes even a month old, a race report. Now you're riding along in the car and
oh yeah,
you're on the podium. My point is the real-time opportunity to put fans in the driver's seat, in the garage with the crew members, back in the hauler with the drivers, and give them a look under the curtain, invite them in to our home, our environment that is IMSA. That to me is, of course, very unique compared to what happened, you know, in our growing up years in the sport. But what it also has done is, I think, allowed people to learn more. And we talked about education. Well, the pieces that our team or our partners at Coforce create, or the NASCAR Productions teammates here in this building create to tell the story, that I believe is what has intrigued and then captivated and then kept our fans in the game. So you're right, 500 million video views. That is
I mean, when
I
you
can't
look
get my arms
You
around
look at
that.
the numbers, up 300%, up 400%. And I remember at Road America, and I was sitting there talking to Doug O'Donnell, and he's like, we're close. And
Yeah.
I said, Doug, you can't leave. You've got to get a picture when you hit 1 million
The
subscribers.
speedometer, you honk
It's
the
just
horn,
like,
right?
exactly. It's like the speedometer. All right, it's getting ready to turn over. Yep.
Well, it's really important. And I think what it does, first of all, strategic positioning and marketing of IMSA and the content, but then it trickles over to the value for these race teams. There's corporate partners on their cars that they're providing value to. They have a fan base that they want to, get more engaged and have them come out to the race and have them follow them as a race team. And then there's companies that see this opportunity. It's just a rising tide lifts all boats type environment, not to be too cliche. And when you've got that kind of, eyeball count on your product, that's a bit of nirvana for all of us on the IMSA side and in the entire community. We just got to keep growing it. When I went to the theater and saw the F1 movie, and the first 12 and a half minutes were all shot at the Rolex 24, real time during the weekend or right in the race, and I've told people, like, when Brad Pitt does the burnout in the pits, Brad Pitt did that burnout. Okay. And so they wanted it to be authentic. That's why Pat Long was a bit of a motorsports advisor for the movie, to make sure that when they did those scenes, it was just like it is in the race. So we're going to keep telling the story. We're going to keep sharing content. And, again, as our fans, if you have ideas and things you want to learn, we're going to do our ever best to help you see those and then teach you those.
Well, they were filming one of the scenes where he was going from his little camper, which I took pictures and passed by. It reminded me of Steve McQueen. It had that McQueenish, motorcycle on the back and everything else. But as I'm dodging people running down behind pit lane, going from one pit to another, here comes Brad Pitt, helmet on, full uniform.
IMSA WeatherTech lane.
Yeah, and we're like dodging each other, trying to get by to get where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
But it's just another element, that the cool factor, and it just continues to grow.
Yes, sir.
But it all goes back to the thrilling excitement that we see on the racetrack. And from Daytona through to Petite, every single stop almost seemed like it outdid the stop before. So it always starts and ends, I think, with the on the edge type seat that the fans witness from the couch or in person.
Yeah, my fanboy comes out of me watching these races. I used to care a lot who won when I was running the Mazda program. Now I care about a packed house, a big viewership, and a great racing. And when I watch the races, whether it's our incredible restarts, whether it's just traffic in general, or no matter how you play it, these races come down to the last 30 minutes. And I think back to Indianapolis, and I was with Eric Warren the week before Petite, just, our annual kind of catch up with the manufacturers. And he said to me, he's like, on that last deal with the full course yellow, he's like, I had my phone in my hand because of course they were leading and running up front. And I said, our first of all, our track services team did an amazing job. So we gave the fans what they came for or what they were watching. And that is an incredible, green flag to the finish there with just a couple laps to go. So it's been an amazing year, Matt. And I look at our staff in Daytona Beach, most incredible group of motorsports professionals. They're putting in the effort to get us where we are today. And you look at it with our promoters, and you mentioned the schedule. They've completely embraced what we're doing. They're in a place where they love that early schedule announcement because they can, do immediate fan renewals, and they can plan pre-race fan fest events, which we've done every single event in 25, and activations. And, you look at all the race cars, these individual race teams or the programs that are more factory based, they can plan. And they can plan activations, they can plan executions, they can, run their budgets out many years when they know what the schedule looks like. Our partners at NBC, they love the fact that we get it out early. So we're doing our best to take really good care of it. We want to keep polishing on it and keep giving our audience, content, to your point. And you mentioned YouTube. Road America was a special moment for us when we went over 1 million. The 3 million followers is big across all channels, but you look at YouTube with Win the Weekend, which has been presented by Michelin, which is an awesome, little docuseries. That was a big boost. But then as we opened up the live broadcasts outside the US on YouTube, it really gave us an injection. But on a weekend in and weekend out basis, these sort of snackable short form video pieces that Jonathan Grace, Marshall Pruitt have been doing for us, it puts people behind the scenes. And I know our fans want that, and they want to learn about the, brake system on the Lexus. They want to learn about hybrid. They want to know what makes, Nick Tandy, and his success, what makes him tick. And we're trying to do that. We can continue to be accessible at the event. So why not be even more accessible away from the event?
Well, we go back to Daytona and the Rolex, and you had to turn people away because there's only so many pit stalls on pit lane. And in years past, you'd see a big drop off once the Rolex 24 was in the books. Not the case now.
Well, you saw it, the entry list we announced at Petit is once again chock full of incredible race cars, incredible race teams, amazing drivers will get announced, corporate partners. But to be ahead of that and open up entries in early August, which is when we previously did State of the Sport. We moved it up from October to August, and it's just amazing the moment the sport is in, all of motorsport. But, growing up around endurance sports car racing, I keep pinching myself for the moment we're in, the number of OEMs that are here. And heart of heart, when Bill France Sr. and John and Peggy Bishop founded this, they had one thing in mind, and that was race teams should be able to come and run, whether they're in GTD or in a GTP program, at whatever level that they can live within their means on, but also to bring the best of the best. And I know you get the opportunity with your NBC teammates to call these races, whether pit road or in the booth. And the product is really, really special. And we're just going to keep doing our ever best to keep it exciting and keep delivering every weekend.
Well, when you look through the timeline of the year and all the different things that are involved in a race weekend, and I go back to when I was in college and I was in a fraternity, and there's all these different fraternities, and everybody has their own brand, and everybody, has, their own philanthropy. And you look at the IMSA paddock, and there are so many single make series that have their own following, which is just a whole nother level to the cool factor when you walk through the paddock.
Yeah. So I like to call the single makes, it's a Jim France ism, if you will, the prized possession of those OEMs. When you think of Ford, what do you think of? You think of the Mustang. When you think of Mazda, what do you think of? Best-selling two-seat sports car in the history of the world, the MX-5 Miata. When you think of Porsche, no doubt, the 911. Same for Lamborghini, same for Ferrari. Like, they're iconic cars and, of course, iconic brands. When they've given us the license, if you will, to facilitate those single make championships for them, we are so honored and want to continue to help them grow driver talent, grow race team talent. You look back at some of the teams, use McCumpy Mackler, for example, who are a staple in IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. I worked with them. They started their MX-5 Cup team when I was at Mazda, and now they got a Ford Mustang Challenge team. They're winning races in Pilot Challenge, and who knows, maybe they're in the WeatherTech Championship someday. So that to me is a pipeline. Also, I think I'm really proud and happy for the OEMs that they have a business model. So these single make single car build championships are a part of the business of motorsport now, and so many of them successful. And I hope, more to come. But, of course, before Petite, Ford Mustang Challenge wrapped up at the Charlotte Roval, and to have them in front of NASCAR fans on that weekend, amazing. Mazda, of course, finished up at Petite. Head to COTA, Circuit of the Americas, where Porsche Carrera Cup North America finishes up their season during the F1 weekend. And then, of course, there's a couple World Finals events coming up for Lamborghini and Ferrari. So really excited about the single makes and what they do to continue to excite fans. And as you know, like when a fan comes to an IMSA race, from 8 a.m., it's your alarm clock.
It is. It starts out with the buzz of the MX-5 Cup cars, and then you can just hear, okay, now we're on to the next chapter, because here's the roar and the thunder from the Mustangs, and right on down the list.
Eggs and bacon are cooking on the camping stove, and it's MX-5s or another single make that wakes people up. And then, all the way until, in some cases, in that heat of the summer, there's cars on track till close to 8 o'clock at night. So when fans come to an IMSA race, they are getting content right in front of their eyes.
I tell people all the time that IMSA, no matter what you're into, there is a place for you.
Yeah.
And you talked about all the different single makes. We've talked about WeatherTech and Michelin Pilot, but also if you're someone that's into more vintage stuff, HSR is your place. In fact, I was talking to somebody on the phone yesterday, and they had gone to the Midi.
Yeah.
And the guy said to me, look, I've already talked to some customers. I've got a big trailer and we can fill her up. He goes, and we're going to be going loaded next year, and we're checking off a bunch of HSR races. So that's another avenue that you have provided fans.
So fun. So, grew up around the sport, and my dad ran cars that are now HSR eligible back in the 70s and 80s. And when I was at Mazda, I worked with my teammates, and we wrote a white paper about the future of sports car racing. And there was a chapter in there about historic racing. And the top of the page said, the greatest bands of all time never stop playing their greatest hits. And that dawned on me about what we do in IMSA every year, right? We're creating the next product for HSR when cars, go out of their homologation period. And, when I talked to Mr. France and Ed Bennett about HSR, and was really excited, and David Hinton, who was one of the founding, family members, if you will, of HSR, he said, like, we are essentially, IMSA is creating HSR's future every year. And the sights and sound of motorsports are celebrated at HSR. And just prior to, Road Atlanta and Michelin Raceway's finale for Petit Le Mans, I was at Michelin Raceway for HSR's Classic 10 Hour, presented by Mission Foods. Juan Gonzalez himself was there racing. For me, it's the sweet sound of so many different eras of cars. And the fans, of course, get the same chance to get up and close.
See, and I never really thought, but it's a fantastic analogy that we could say the Rolling Stones have a lot in common with sports car racing.
I like that. I like that a lot. And, we're fortunate. We announced at that Classic 10 Hour the 26 schedule, and we'll be back at the Rolex 24 with IMSA Classic. So cars that competed at the Rolex 24 from 1990 to 2010 will race twice during the Rolex 24 weekend again. And I love the fact that fans can see where we came from. Mm-hmm. How did we get to today?
Yep.
And you see design elements of the cars. You certainly hear the engines, but I think we're at a moment today. But I think it's important to know how we got here, and that's what HSR does.
I say it so many times. We've got so many new fans. When you see the record crowds and the way the grid walk looks, and I call them free agent fans, because they come in and they're trying to find a favorite driver, favorite team. But also, when you have a lot of the historic cars around, they get a great education of how far the sport has come to appreciate even more the high-tech machinery that we've got on pit lane.
Yeah, from aerodynamics to engine technology to certainly safety, and the HSR community has been very focused on making sure that we celebrate the cars, but we still update and do the things we need to do on the safety front. So those are fun weekends. It's been a little bit of extra addition to my schedule, but wouldn't change a thing. It's really neat.
I remember going to my first Midi, and I was talking to different people, and they're like, hey, I bought this, X Cup car. And you see the passion and the different types of cars that people have, but it's their golf game. They said, look, I would rather be here hanging out with my buddies, old school racing, go out and run, a heat race, and then hang out and bench race and get ready for another race. And it's just another environment for the fan to enjoy motor racing. Yeah,
there's one 3-letter word that we use every time with our HSR family, and it's fun. And they all come to have fun. We have a family reunion that we have taco night, thanks to Mission Foods, every Thursday or Friday during race weekends. And that's exactly right. It's everybody getting together, talking about the cars, talking about the history of the cars, but also talking about life and to your point, getting away from the hustle and bustle of the weekday stuff and just going out and having an absolute blast, rain or shine. So.
And you talk about where those guys get a chance, men and women get a chance to go out and run those cars and the at-track experience, but also, the track partners. And there's a couple different drivers on a race weekend that I know love to go out and run. Yeah. And they'll run through the campgrounds, getting in their mileage, and they'll report back. I'm telling you, I've never seen the crowd camping this big at this place. Back in an area where I never see tents and campers, loaded down right up to the woods.
Yeah.
And when you look at the numbers that we see, I'm like, all right, so I know what that means. Grid walk, which is free with a general admission ticket, which also shocks people. And then you go, by the way, did you go to the autograph session? Yeah, I had no idea. That was also part of the general admission ticket. There's so much added value, but you see it on the grid walk with the fans. And every single event we went to this year, I was blown away over the increases that I saw from the year before, which I was already blown away with.
Yeah, you and I had an opportunity, moment at Indy to say hello on the grid walk, which could have been called gridlock because it was jam packed. But families, little kids, people walking their dogs. Of course, Rexy and Spike are there, and the drivers. That I'm so grateful to our drivers and team owners. They go and they interact with fans on the grid walk, and certainly crew members are propping the cars and got them all ready to go. But the way our internal community has embraced that and given the fans that experience. But back in June at the Salem 6 Hours at the Glen, I did sort of that driver walk for me through the campgrounds. And what excited me was they're jam-packed, so they were wall-to-wall, side-to-side. And remember camping at Road America with my family growing up, and the young kids already on their bicycles at 6 a.m, riding around.
Oh yeah.
Some little girl whose brother's 10 bike lengths behind. You're slow, it gave me excitement. Like these are future racers right here. But the way the promoters have given the fans the experience, it makes my hair stand up. It gives me energy to keep pushing, gives my team energy when we know that people believe in the product. They want to come see the product, and they want to have a family experience. And I think that's one of the things that's injected so much life into our form of the sport is they can pull their camper or their tent right up to the fence. And when they wake up at 6, they can have their coffee and breakfast. And very soon the product is going to be right in front of them. And again, to your point, the grid walk. But next year, of course, we announced back in March, a little bit of adjustment to the calendar. We're going to go to Road America with a 6 hour. So that'll be part of the Michelin Endurance Cup. Mike Kircher and Greg and Mary Lou and the team up there have done a crazy good job of packing that place. And based on the fan response we got in August when we were there.
And they're still talking about it.
Exactly. They actually did a track walk after the WeatherTech race on Sunday because they were concerned about, egress of people getting out because of the numbers. So clearly you saw that at Michelin Raceway last week. We are so fortunate that the sport and the fans are embracing it the way they are.
See, I told Gunnar Jeanette when he was on the previous show, go back to Road America, and I'm walking through the paddock, and it's it's Saturday. The autograph session has just started, and I saw this family, husband and wife, each had a wagon, each had a kid in the wagon, and they're going through the paddock, and you can see that they're starting to get a little worn down. And I go, hey, and they looked at me. I go, just look for the bubbles.
Yeah,
50 yards ahead. You'll be good to go for an hour. And the guy looked at me and goes, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's where there's so much goes on with the drivers. You don't have to buy merchandise. You go to they're at the table at the back of the hauler signing stuff, take pictures.
Yeah.
And, that just creates the whole, we're one big family in racing.
Yeah. That I grew up as racing as a family, and it's what I hope that our culture, at least under my watch, will continue to be that. But you're exactly right. And you see, you mentioned merchandise. It's not all about merchandise, but the people walking around with manufacturer shirts on, race team shirts on.
You got to show your colors.
You do. And I think, in a lot of ways, the cars become stars at IMSA races and in the WeatherTech Championship. But, the drivers and what they've accomplished are notably being recognized by the fans. And then you leave the track. And, as right here on this table are a bunch of model cars, and I'm a big model car buff, always have been. But go to the toy aisle now. Go to Walmart, go to Target, go to Meijer, and there's IMSA cars on the rack, thanks to, what AO Racing's done, Corvette Racing, and you name it. There's a Cadillac GTP car on the Hot Wheels rack. For me, growing up in this sport, it feels like, we've reached a moment where the racing's amazing, the places are packed, but now it's trickling out where my wife teaches preschool, and a little boy, knowing zero that there was a connection between, Miss Kristen at the preschool and my career, kid walks in with an AO Racing shirt on. My daughter graduates from Butler last May, and they did this interview with seniors, and the young man, like the team here behind the camera, has got his water bottle there, and he's got a Rexy sticker on it. And my daughter commented on it, and all the pieces came together, and they linked up the fact that she was my daughter. But bottom line is, like, it's going a little more mainstream, if you will, broader audience, and the social numbers we talked about, that helps. And so we're going to keep polishing on it. We want feedback from our fan base to make sure we're giving them a great experience. And I'm excited to see what 26 and beyond brings.
Well, when you look at 26 and Motul, different partners, they're eaten up by, just like we are.
Yeah.
And they see the value, and they see the fan base and how rabid they are. And I always go back to the one DNA that everybody in racing always has. If you support racing, I'm going to support you.
Yeah. The loyalty of our fans to our partners is massive. You mentioned Motul, of course. Last week, we celebrated them big time at Motul Petit Le Mans. But they also were key in getting the Road America 6 hour to happen. And you look at that market up there, of course, during the summer, it's, jet skis and wave runners and things like that, and boats. And then the snow falls, and it's, snowmobiles, and then spring comes, and the ATVs and the side-by-sides come out. So besides everything we're doing on the racetrack, a company like Motul knows that that's a market that they want to be in front of very enthusiastic fans and sportsmen and men and women that love the outdoors. And so there's more to it than just what IMSA does on the racetrack. They're seeing this as a marketplace. We also announced last week a company like BDO. Google BDO. They're leading finance and audit company for audit services. Well, they certainly want to be in the paddock where we have, 18, soon to be 19 manufacturers and companies like WeatherTech and Michelin. But they've been using these events like Konica Minolta has in the past, like CrowdStrike has, as an opportunity to bring chief technology officers, chief information officers, chief financial officers into the market, do a business meeting, do a summit about their services and about their business, and then bring them to the racetrack and show them the tie between how fast they do their business and a real-time example or a proof of concept, how efficient they are, like our teams are when it comes to, strategy and things like that, or how strategy decisions are made real time in the IMSA environment and how that is a perfect example of how they do business. So for me, I've always wanted the environment to be a place to do business. And for companies like Motul, like BDO, like Konica, like CrowdStrike, and of course, Michelin, I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, but for them to see value on site, association value, just by being in the environment. And then, of course, on the broadcast or on social, Brembo, Times Square. IMSA was in Times Square.
Can you believe that? I mean, think of Times Square, New Year's Eve, and then there's Brembo.
Seriously, they've done an incredible job of telling the world, and probably one of the biggest screens that exists.
I mean, it made people stop, no pun intended, to look, oh my gosh, what is on the big screen?
Yeah. So, for me and my teammates, those are proud moments that didn't happen by accident. The people have wanted to learn more, and we've tried to show them the value, and then it's our responsibility to keep that going.
And you mentioned Michelin, and I love the fact that as we continue to look ahead to the future, and we're making huge gains in the present as far as sustainability and looking at the environment, and I love their display in the paddock where they've got a tire and it's all cut up to different, ingredients that are in the tire and how it's good for the environment, because you don't think, oh, tires can't be great for the environment, but yet all that goes into a racing tire that Michelin puts together is fantastic on so many different levels.
Yeah, this one's really special, and forgive me if there's some emotion here, but when you look at and our dad race, grandpa race, so we saw a lot of different products over the years, but when you have an opportunity to partner with the number one tire brand in the world, it's a fact. It's really, really important for us as a sanctioning body, for our manufacturer partners, and for the race teams to know that they have a product under them that is going to go the distance. And they've proven now by bringing a double stint tire, or the tires will continue to perform at their very best for longer. We'll use less of them. And one of the things when you watch a Michelin TV spot, I think it talks about driving, toward a better future, and, sustainability is their middle name. And of course, that's really important to us relative to the hybrid systems and the fuel we use and things like that. But the Michelin partnership we announced last week is so incredibly special for IMSA and for everybody involved. It's a long-term deal. It's very foundational today and to the future. Much like the WeatherTech deal and VP Fuels and Rolex, it provides a stable foundation for people to plan and to know that the property itself is stable. But with Michelin, they use this as a laboratory to test. So you mentioned all the materials that are in those tires. More and more, the amount of sustainable raw materials that are going into these tires, that percentage is increasing. They want to, and we announced, celebrate sustainability. So we will have at every race, starting at the Rolex 24 at Daytona in January, a sustainability award that's presented on the podium. And it may not go to the winning car. It's a team that used the least number of tires and was most efficient with their fuel usage and their energy usage when it comes to hybrid. And for a company like Michelin to be able to tell that story very authentically, the racing is great, the tires, but that takes it to a whole new level. And so, cannot thank Matthew Cabe, who's president here in the U.S., Alexis Garcin, who now is back in France, but he was Matthew's predecessor, and the entire team at Michelin for the confidence they have in IMSA, and had the chance to go see their factory in Clermont 2 years ago. And one of the things that really struck me was the human element of producing these racing tires. And I left there just blown away that the men and women in the factory that are building the tires see them leave and they go out the door. And unless they're a diehard race fan, they don't maybe see the punishment that they're put through when you're on pit lane doing the broadcasts and a tire comes off and it may have had a puncture, but it had wear and tear on it. Yeah. And I think for those folks doing the tires, I want them to see what they've done and the performance that the tire held until the very end of the race and made the difference between a top step of the podium and not on the podium, and vice versa. At the racetrack, our race teams go to the Michelin tire compound with their pit truck and they pick up the rack. They may not have a realization of the men and women that built those tires back in Clermont, France. And so this partnership is so incredibly meaningful to us. To be able to announce it now for the long term is really special. And then, of course, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta is part of that. And that also will remain Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for a long term and gives Michelin the chance to tell a story both during race weekends, but then they can do some, real road car product testing and demonstrations. So everybody wins in this partnership, candidly. And I hope that, the fans, when they have a new choice in road car tires, they're looking at Michelin every single time.
Now, I spent my high school and college summers working for IROC. And when I started out the first couple of years, I was the tire specialist. So I've got a fondness for the tire guys, the busters and the guys who are balancing the tires. So I always swing by and say hey to the guys over at the Michelin tire compound. And the passion that they have connects to the passion of the men and women that build the tires in France. And I love how we always talk about, hey, the BDO Strategy Award, because somebody double stinted or triple stinted tires because they make such a quality product.
Yeah.
Because so often you'll hear a tire mentioned because something bad happened. But in IMSA, it's always something good happened because of the quality of the tire. It's changed the strategy of the race and the excitement of the race. It's added a whole different element.
Yeah. Well, you go back to what we started with in 2023 when we launched GTP and essentially right out of the box, a double stint tire. So to your point, people are coming for a fuel stop only to finish out the last stint perhaps, or to gain track position on the next restart. And that's a credit to Michelin for bringing a product that can do that. And we're using less tires. We're using a third less tires than we did just a few years ago. So sustainability side, we're being good citizens, but at the same time, we're still showing insane performance for the long haul. So
I love going online and surfing through the different message boards and seeing what the fans like and what they gravitate to and what storylines they like to follow. So we can try to maybe carry that over into the broadcast. But when you see just the excitement, especially with the ones, and I see it all the time, I'm going to the Rolex 24 for the first time. Tell me what I need to know. I'm going to go to Sebring for the first time. Where should I camp? What should I do? What should I bring? What are the rules? And you see that excitement of first time, campers or first time going to a race. I met a guy after Sebring at the airport. We had a big delay and he saw my shirt and he goes, well, I know where you've been. And I said, well, I'm guessing from your shirt, I know where you've been. He goes, first time ever. We just picked Sebring because it was going to be warm and we're from up near Canada. And he goes, oh my God, we're already looking of where else we can go this year.
Yeah.
But how do you look at ways to continue to grow the fan base?
Well, I think an immediate real time, the social media piece has really, really touched our existing fans, but also been that catalyst to people giving us a try. And it was special. Our social digital team presented internally, and during the Indianapolis 6 hour, I believe Doug shared with me that there were 15,000 comments from fans watching on YouTube. And what struck me is he said between him and his teammates, they read every single one of them. And the cool thing is, to your point, when someone says, hey, it's my first time going to Daytona International Speedway for the Rolex 24, what do I need to know? The fans are asking questions. And it's not our guys necessarily every time answering. It's other fans, which just gives me such energy that the other fans are deciding to, yeah, you're here and please stay. And this is why I love it. And then, they start celebrating the things that happened during the race. So I think engaging with them and continuing to educate, because there's no doubt, you look at the cars here again on the table, there's a lot going on the racetrack. 4 classes at the big events. It's hard for people to understand the difference between red mirrors and green mirrors and GT and the prototypes look similar. Of course, the GTP cars are the capstone of the whole thing, but we got to educate, we got to continue to teach and help people realize that, what they see in a GT car is quite similar to what they see driving to work every day. And then for me, a GTP car just tells people what's possible going forward. So yeah, needless to say, I'm a little pumped.
Well, and the thing is, I always think of, you look at how you start the year, and if you're a driver, you get to win a great trophy that you get to wear on your wrist and flex it to all your buddies about, hey, this was Daytona. And then I always joke with drivers that have multiple kids. I'm like, you know what that means? You've got to win at least one more so each kid can be gifted your trophy. But what Rolex is doing for this year, they gave the champions.
Yes.
Rolex is a special Rolex for winning the championship.
A bit of a bookend.
Yeah.
You cannot have a Rolex Daytona with engraving as a Rolex Daytona 24 winner without winning that race. And now the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship champions were awarded on Sunday night a Rolex engraved as champion. So it's a special award that is got so much blood, sweat, and tears in it, and some big highs and some challenging lows and everything in between. But another foundational partnership. And if you watched any element of Petite, you saw the Rolex gantry on pit lane. I think that's a really unique symbol to have, and you've seen it at other motorsport events around the world. And to have that at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta was another really great addition.
And just another partner, like a long list that you mentioned at the State of the Sport at Road Atlanta, just all the different people that either are jumping on board or have been here and want to be here for a much longer runway.
Yeah, one of the challenges, which is a great challenge to have, was obviously the fans came out in huge numbers. But so we have close to 24 corporate partners that have come to IMSA and created some really awesome opportunities for fans and competitors alike. Every single partner, every single one had representation there. I think the momentum, the energy, the excitement has been infectious, and folks that for whatever reason haven't been able to make it to an event earlier in the year, they chose this one. And once again, my teammates and it just makes us smile. We're really happy for the sport, and we want to keep providing opportunities for people to come and enjoy it, come to do business, and come and try to win a Rolex or another big trophy.
Well, see, I love walking by the truck, and you mentioned all the OEMs, all of the partners, and their logo is on the side of the IMSA hauler. And it makes you just take a step back and just look at how many people have a passion and love for the sport, and it just continues to grow. But it also grows in areas that some people might be a little bit surprised, because we always go, wow, that car was like a rocket, but then literally you look at a new partnership has come on board with NASA.
Yeah. Who would have thought? I remember my first science project. I remember the piece of poster board that you had to figure out how to make it stand up. And my first science project was I built a rocket out of 2-liter bottles of soda, and talked about rockets and what makes them work and things like that. And now, fast forward, after watching space shuttle program and reading about it all these years of growing up, then to know that they want to come to the IMSA events and be in the IMSA environment to study thermal properties of different materials. Obviously, carbon fiber is most popular in our environment. They want to come see an extreme heat, an extreme cold, an extreme speed, an extreme downforce, real time, and use their learnings in our environment to continue to think about going to Mars. And vice versa, the things that we have in our environment, they've got laboratories both here on Earth and in space that could help us learn things to be better, to be more efficient, and also perhaps try to take what they have done and implement it for the future of the sport. So I can't believe candidly that we're in partnership with NASA, and the program's called the Space Act Agreement, and it's a collaborative data sharing and research sharing opportunity that I'm so proud to say there's no other sanctioning body in the world that has anything like that.
I conjure up images of going down to the beach in Ormond Beach and watching the shuttle lift off and different, rockets firing off with satellites. When you talk about government programs in racing, I always hear the feedback is, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how their tolerances and everything else that they do is almost perfect. And we don't find that in any other culture, which is why so many, defense industry people and government folks, they want to do business with people in racing, whether it's people in racing making stuff for them or being involved in trying to learn, because it's not a big gap of tech. It's so narrow. And so they're able to do a lot of repeatability and gain so much knowledge.
Yeah, that's what's been fun about our partnership with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the United States Department of Energy, SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, wanting to, number one, endorse what we're doing, which is really cool from the fuel standpoint and using less tires and, longer fuel runs because of the hybrid system. They've sort of put their stamp of approval on and said like, okay, what they're doing over here, this could be a fuel that's at the pump down the road. And so it's real, it's fun. And the fact that they see what we're doing in this sort of extreme environment as a learning tool is really special.
We talked about how a lot of people get to sports car racing, and we're seeing more and more, kids who were iRacing, doing online racing, and they got to a certain level and they're like, you know what? I love this. I want to try the real thing. And what IMSA does during the off season, and I really love how, you've got the IMSA Esports Global Championship.
Yep.
And is that going to be ramped up again?
Yeah. Once again, in the quote off season, which you and I both know is
like, what is it, 50 days?
Yeah, I think something like that. We'll once again have the Esports Championship, visiting the same iconic tracks. And what really captures me is the fact that the authenticity, like what did you have, an Atari or a Nintendo? There was no Nintendo even for you and I think it was,
Well,
pole position.
I'm going to say I lost a lot of quarters with pole position too.
Okay.
And then when I got in television, that was like a whole nother thing. But I won't say we started out with Pong, but I really don't want to.
Well, the graphics in pole position
Yeah.
Early on were probably just as good as Pong.
Yeah.
Boxes, they almost look like Tetris. But what iRacing has done, and what frankly our teams are using on driver in the loop simulators before they even go to the racetrack, is so close to what happens for real at the racetrack now. It's a thrill for me that fans, professional sim racers, our very own drivers, can get into those competitions and be experiencing the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, fortunately there's a reset button, cause I've used it several times.
See, if I just leave it on arcade,
then you're good.
I don't have to, worry about losing a fender, going into the tires.
Yeah. But once again, that's a new space for us. And I remember last year, Max Verstappen himself has an esports team, and lo and behold, I'm watching, and there's Max himself, supporting his team, competing. That's pretty neat.
So we're talking about iRacing and cool things that happen there. But in the real world, are we going to see any new additions to the IMSA paddock as far as classes?
Well, for sure, you're going to see some new cars and new teams and new liveries. One of the things that we want to keep doing, and we talked about single makes and filling the pipeline. The VP Racing Sports Car Challenge has been so great, because, teams that don't necessarily have the experience, multi-class racing, things like that. The VPRC series, whether it's an LMP3 car, GTDX, which is the same GT3 cars, a year after they ran in WeatherTech, and of course GSX, which are the Michelin Pilot GT4 cars. It's given people an opportunity to learn about IMSA, be on track in multi-class racing sort of formats. And so we added, in addition to the 6 sprint races, which is 2 45-minute races on a weekend, we added 4 enduros. And those enduros, 2 hours each at tracks like Circuit of the Americas, VIR, Road America, Sebring. It will give the LMP3 folks a chance to share a car and run a 2-hour. And we're very pleased that the BMW M2 Challenge will be coming to IMSA. Another sort of single make car, but to put that car into a multi-class racing environment is great for entry level. Immediately somebody's in a multi-class learning opportunity where you got a much faster prototype chasing after
it's all a stepping stone.
It is, for sure. So who knows? We're excited about it. BMW has embraced us kicking that off here in North America. So the first race that runs in early 26 at Sebring in March, when the VPRC Enduro series, for lack of a better term, kicks off, that'll be the first M2 Challenge race in North America.
I love generationally. You've got fans that are like, man, when I was a kid, Al Holbert, Derek Bell, the Lowenbrown Porsche 962, where you had the creepy crawly, the Red Lobster, you name it. And then when GTP came back home,
yeah,
you had a whole new generation going, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. Love the prototypes. And has there been something as far as, paperwork of where we're going to see this brand stick around for quite a while?
Well, I'm pleased to say, and we talked about it a little bit last week, and I guess it was now about a month or so ago, my engineering teammates, Matt Kurdock, Bill Pearson, Simon Hodgson, who runs our competition department, went to Paris, and we were in a convergence meeting with all the manufacturers, 13 of them in the room, by the way.
Wow.
Which is insane. Talking about what we've done since 2020 when we announced convergence, and where we are headed. And so I think much work to be done, okay, on the actual parameters and the technical elements of the regulations. But I walked out of that room with a huge smile because, come 2030, the goal would be to be on one set of regulations. And for our sport, that is massive. And my opening comment in that meeting with all the manufacturers and Pierre Fion from the ACO and Richard Mille from the FIA Endurance Commission, I said, what strikes me here is I don't know that I've been in a room with a group of individuals that care as much about our sport as you all. And I said, 13 of you around this massive U-shaped table that went forever in this hotel ballroom right outside the Charles de Gaulle Airport. I said, a handful of years ago, we could have got a table for 4 in the restaurant. And that to me I'm so blessed to be able to be in this moment of our sport like you and so many others when, we've never seen it like this before.
I mean, think about in the 80s, you'd have a Porsche, you'd have a March, and you might have, another, car jump in or out. But to have 13,
yeah,
that's
globally,
like you mentioned, that's insane.
It's insane. And, of course, Genesis, my teammates, Rebecca, Brandon Huddleston, we went to New York back in April and we're part of the Genesis unveil. That's a beautiful race car. Of course, Ford announced in June, as did McLaren, that they're coming to the top category. And so, I don't know, Matt. I don't know what to say.
I mean, we had Zach Brown on the show, and I said, "Hey, when are we going to see the papaya?" He goes, "All right, we gotta get rolling in 27, but I could see maybe 2028." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, another one."
Well, I twist his arm every week. He's been winning a lot of races around the world this year, and
he's a big vintage racer.
He is, yeah, and I think he's gonna come race with us in HSR. He said, and so, but again, I get a bit speechless and a little fanboy because, when I walk the grid walk or when I watch our fans so excited about what we have here, I'm fully committed to continue to polish on it and make sure that we're making really solid decisions for the good of the sport and to know that the future is solid. That's the start. And then we gotta work on all the details.
One of the details that stood out to me in one of my favorite race weekends, Battle on the Bricks. And one of the reasons why, because IMSA and the France family has always given back from day one when they started, always given back to different philanthropies. And I loved Resilient Racers. Yeah. And what was cool about that program, which highlighted the Austin Hatcher Foundation and also Camp Boggy Creek, which I've been to. Yeah. And I know Paul Newman said about VIR, if there's heaven on earth, it's VIR. I'm going to tell you, if there's heaven on earth, it's Camp Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
Because when you see what those kids go through day to day and they're able to come in and be a camper, a normal kid for a week and have access to all the things,
paddle boats,
you name it.
It
really makes you appreciate, having that opportunity. But to see Resilient Racers and then to see the teams almost getting into competition with each other over who is going to outdo whom, the Ford Mustang team, they're Resilient Racers. They had their own driver uniform, and you saw that type of involvement up and down the grid, and to be able to raise money and have those two charities, much like an IMSA team where it's all about teamwork, team cars, and they were splitting the donations because September was Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. So I loved number 1, and I can't wait to see it at number 2.
Yeah. At the WeatherTech Night of Champions on Sunday night, we presented the Marketing Achievement Award to the entire community because I've never seen a group of racers that just beat on each other on the racetrack come together like that. We got that Marketing Achievement Award started to celebrate, to your point, what Ford has done and all the different liveries, what AO Racing's done in the marketplace, what Turner does with giving out taco hats, that kind of stuff is great. But the way that the IMSA community came together with Resilient Racers is honestly, for me, what this sport is all about. And we came together as a family to see little boys and little girls featured on the hero card of the race team for that weekend at the autograph session, signing their name on that hero card to, your comment, in driver suits. I mean, some of the race teams flew these families in for the weekend.
Yep.
Their names were on all the cars. It's
I mean, I've never seen over plus 50 cars and teams that were so all in about making it an experience and honoring all these young kids that have gone through so much.
Yeah, and you mentioned Austin Hatcher and Camp Boggy Creep. I'm very fortunate to serve on the board of both of those organizations. They do amazing work. And I shared on the broadcast the stuff we deal with on the racetrack, adversity. It doesn't hold a candle to what those families and those young boys and girls have gone through. And so to be able to celebrate that, Rebecca Roski killed it. So many of our teammates killed it on creating that program, and the teams just all voted yes, like, we're in, count us in. And I left there with a happy heart, and I think the notes I've received since then it tells you that we made a difference.
Really, I wasn't surprised, but it was almost like you could be overwhelmed at just how special that race day was, for so many.
Really good.
Well, back on March 13th, you were here in studio and you announced the 2026 schedule about 7 months before everybody else in the whole racing world and globally. And so I'm asking for a friend. On or about maybe March 19th, which would be a Thursday, I believe, before Sebring race week, could we see possibly the 2027 schedule announced right here on the show?
Well,
asking for a friend, by the way.
I appreciate that. So I can tell you this: our team has been in a couple of rooms recently, laying out the 27 calendar. We're going to do our ever best to keep that cadence going, because as I said earlier, what it does is everybody plans further out. The promoters know their date, so when the checkered flag falls, they can immediately engage with the fans, literally as they're perhaps driving out of the facility, about coming back, or encouraging them to try another IMSA event if they haven't been to, like you said earlier, first timer at one of those events. So it helps the race teams, it helps drivers, manufacturers, corporate partners plan ahead, and we do plan to be on that same cadence, God willing. We've worked with our partners at NBC and broadcast windows and trying to get a jump on those. And it just, I think it helps everybody. And so that's our goal. And also in 27, it'll be the 75th anniversary of the longest running endurance race in North America. And that is the 12 Hours of Sebring. And so watch for some exciting announcements there around the 75th. And we're going to celebrate tremendous history there and the tremendous history that IMSA is, and what it continues to be, and what I hope for years and years to come it is in the future.
Now, some people may look at the glass as half empty. I always try to look at it as half full, and I hate to see the racing season come to an end. But the good thing about the IMSA WeatherTech Championship is the fact that we've got such a narrow window between Petit Le Mans and when we roll into Daytona for the Rolex 24, but then you back up and you've got the Roar, and then you back up, you've got November testing. So just when you think, oh, it's done, we're going to pull you right back in with a lot of excitement, because during that window, folks, they can go to, IMSA.com. They can go to the IMSA social media channels, because we're going to have tons of content to get you through the winter. So that way you're all primed and ready for the Rolex 24.
Yeah, there's no doubt. As I left Petit, I had, buddies calling, hey, let's get together now that you're in the off season. I, of course, want to do that, and we will do that. But, 30 days out from the checkered flag at Motul Petit Le Mans, we're rolling into Daytona for some November testing. And again, I can't thank you enough. The NBC broadcast team and the broadcast team here in Concord that does such an incredible job of producing our shows. All of my IMSA teammates, I've got the best group of folks to work with, and we're just we're having a ball, and we want to keep polishing on it and taking really good care of it. It's an incredible moment now, and we want this moment to continue for as long as we possibly can.
Certainly one big family, the IMSA paddock, and you see it week in and week out. And John, thanks for coming by and being in studio and putting a period on the year for us, as we've already, lit the fuse, so to speak, on 2026 as we're getting ready for the new season. And don't forget, go to the IMSA YouTube channel, go to IMSA.com, the social media platform, because there's going to be tons of fantastic content. I've already seen some of it, and you're not going to want to miss it. So thanks, John, for stopping by. And thanks for you, the fan, riding along with us all year long right here on the IMSA Endurance Hour podcast. For the entire team, thanks for watching. We'll see you at the track.